I'm April, and we're with Space Law. How are you?
Hey, just fine, just
And
fine.
you're Jerry?
Yeah.
Well, what do you do here, Jerry?
I machine the majority of the components that go into our rocket engines, test our apparatus, etc.
Oh yeah.
So you are the wizard.
Not really. I'm directed. I'm a directed wizard. I don't come up with the designs. I just make them. So,
Wow.
I just make it all work. Put it in 3 dimensions.
For Indianapolis because I'm
How do you make it all work?
Oh, a lot of actual turning wrenches and measuring. You know, nothing exotic. Good old hard work. How
Looks
about
exotic to me.
that? Well, you get familiar with it. It's just like anything else. It's just we're not building anything different than a car or any manufactured product.
Well,
It's just a lot more high performance than the
Yes.
competition's product.
And plus, I think because we're so familiar with their jobs, we kind of make them look easy too.
yeah, I think so. I think so.
Well,
Got this right. There you go. You're on, April.
So, Dr. Valentine, what are these rockets going to be used for?
these rockets are going to be used to make money. They're going to be used for space tourism. We have a second stage that goes on the back of this launch vehicle. That'll launch small satellites. They are going to be flying cheaply enough that we can use them for weather observation and crop observation, and they also have use for microgravity science. But the real purpose is so we can make enough money to build the orbital vehicle. And that will be a piloted orbital vehicle, also highly reusable, just like this one, gas and go. So we just replace the propellants, don't replace anything else on the vehicle. And that will be coming later in this decade. That, and the purpose of all this development is to allow humanity to expand its presence in the solar system so we can get off this planet, and it's to provide for prosperity and longevity for the humankind.
When do you think that'll happen?
It's already beginning. It's beginning with private space stations like Bob Bigelow from Las Vegas is building. These are just the baby steps that we have to take to get the cost of transportation to low Earth orbit low enough that we can do these things. Because once we have the cost to get to low orbit low enough, then it makes possible things like space settlements, space colonies, solar power from space, asteroid mining, the ability to protect the human race from asteroid impacts. All those things become possible once the cost of transportation becomes low enough. And for that, you need the kind of highly reusable rocket engines that we have developed here at Xcore. And you need an operations concept that allows you to fly the vehicles frequently with only refueling. And so this has been a technological journey to that end.
Wow. So this may be something that could happen in...
Yeah, you're from Dr. Valentine.
Great fuel tank. There are 4 of these. They form the wing roots. So you see how they butt into the liquid oxygen tank here. This forms part of the wing that comes out here. They hold the kerosene. So these are serious tanks, serious sized tanks. They hold a lot of kerosene. We burn all of it in 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yeah. I can show you some other things. This is a tested to destruction tank. Right here, the reason I'm going to show you this is to show you that we made this tank right here on this table. It's foam with a skin on either side. It's actually quite lightweight. It has to take a fair amount of pressure, and it was very tough for us to test it to destruction. So we build a lot of margin into this system. So this is a much more rugged spacecraft than any previous one.
About how much pressure could it take?
I'm not sure how many pounds per square inch that this held before it started to leak. But it's many times it's rated at 7 psi. So this would take hundreds of tons of pressure.
This is where the magic happens?
This is where the magic happens. We take a cloth and put epoxy on it. There's a glass cloth right here. Glass cloth. And we put epoxy, paint it with epoxy resin, and lay it up just like you lay paper mache. So if you know how to do paper mache, you could build.
I can get a job?
You could build a spacecraft.
Yeah.
There's standard suppliers.
So we can build a spacecraft in our own backyard, maybe?
If you had the right design and a lot of time, it takes about 4 people or 5 people about a year working full time to get the whole structure of the vehicle together. You have to add some more for the engines and pumps. And then there's some other components that we don't make ourselves, like the avionics, or we buy those pretty much off the shelf. We have developed a couple of new instruments that we use to diagnose the rocket engine health, but most of the structure of this vehicle, if you had a catalog and you had a design and you had the tools,
And you know how to paper mache.
and you know how to paper mache, you could put it together. That'll be bad. Yeah, yeah. Let's. It'll be better if you stand there. This is our small portable test stand. We can do all the work here in the shop, so it's out of the weather. The test stand itself was assembled from surplus government hardware. So those pressure vessels came off a ballistic missile. They're pressure vessels that are insulated here for liquid oxygen. This gizmo right here is the Lynx main engine. This has about 2,900 pounds of vacuum thrust, burns liquid oxygen and liquid kerosene. It's, like all Xcore engines, highly reusable. We expect to fly each engine many thousands of times on the Lynx spacecraft, 4 times a day to space, beginning in within the next year and a half or so. There are a lot more lines here you see that it's plumbed for taking measurements during the development process. And there will be 4 of these on the Lynx spacecraft. Oh, wow. So it'll be a beautiful sight when they're all 4 lit up on the runway, climb into space.
I can't even imagine.
Well, folks in Los Angeles should be able to see this climbing to space and accelerating, because this engine plume is as bright as the sun.
Wow.
So you can't look at it for very long without blinking.
Or wearing sunglasses.
Or wearing, yes, we use welder's lenses to observe the plume. Yeah.
I'm glad it's 4 of them. It looks pretty small.
It looks pretty small, but if the smallest jet engine with a similar rated thrust is about this big.
That's more what I was expecting.
Yeah. This is a small engine and it's fairly light. It looks solid, but there are cooling galleries in here and lots of proprietary engineering technology. Simple on the outside. Performance liquid oxygen, liquid methane engine. We built this for NASA. It is a highly reliable, highly reusable engine. We're planning to use this as the upper stage engine for launching small satellites from the Lynx. We have some other uses for it too. We're developing a throttleable version that will be able to land sizable payloads on the moon.
Well, that should be useful in
Yes, it should be useful for that, and in addition, this serves as one of the engines on the piloted upper stage for our orbital. So I'll show you some video footage of that, and you can get some nice footage putting your stuff. All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me show you a solar array out on the test stand and test site, and we stay in the bunker, and it runs all the equipment. We did have trouble though with the battery. The desert rats. Yeah, remember the desert rats were chewing through the battery piece.
Oh, yeah.
Ground squirrels.
I heard
I thought we should get a credit card, but that's okay.
So you're vice president and chief engineer. This is Dan, right?
Yes, I'm Dan.
DeLong?
Yes,
Did I say that right?
that's how my parents pronounced it.
Good. So what do you do out here besides chief engineering?
Well, that is sufficient to keep one person busy. Mostly I work on the initial concepts and preliminary design for just about everything we do here, both rocket engines and the flight vehicles.
Oh.
The first rocket airplane we ever flew was at one time my airplane. At the time it had a four-cylinder piston engine and a propeller on the back, but when we did an engine swap and put the rocket engines on, I'm no longer qualified to fly it.
But it's still yours, right?
No, I actually sold it to the company.
Okay. So that's pretty cool.
So do I look at you or the camera?
At the camera, always.
Oh, okay.
She's pretty, but my camera will make you more famous.
How about fortune?
No, not about that.
Isn't it
Yeah.
always fame and fortune?
I think
Goes
it's,
hand in hand.
yeah,
Okay, well,
I think it's,
I'd rather do it the other way around. First the fortune, and then you can buy the fame if you choose.
That's true.
But some people don't choose fame.
No.
I've known a few people who've become famous, and just about everyone was ruined.
Yeah, it really does. Well, there's a lot to see out here. We've seen a lot of stuff. Fortunately, I had no idea this was out here, and I had no idea what you had going on behind these doors.
Well, then we're glad you came.
Me too. Learned a lot. More than I knew about 20 minutes ago. So thank you for your time.
We aim to educate.
Yeah, he taught us how to build a rocket ship in our backyard with paper mache.
It probably wouldn't fly as fast, though, if it's paper mache.
Well, it's lightweight, you know. So,
But it's not very strong, so it takes more of it.
I guess you're right. You would know, right?
I haven't made things of paper mache since I was about that tall.
But that's how you got your training, right?
Actually, I got my training first in high school when I was a radio ham, amateur radio operator. And then, like all 15-year-olds, I had a job cutting the grass, although here in the desert there isn't as much grass. And I was cutting grass at the local radio station. And I learned that if I got my first-class radio telephone operator's license, I could work inside where it was air-conditioned. And that was all the incentive I needed to become a licensed broadcast engineer. But I was still 15 years old, which means that if the radio station's transmitter broke down, they could call the engineer, but his mother had to drive him to work. And that's where I started in engineering.
Nice. Wow. There you have it.
Our company president has a sign hanging in his office, and it says, and I think it's a quote from Ronald Reagan, you might not want to repeat that part, "There's no limit to what you can do if you don't care who takes the credit."
So you can take the credit for building,
No, I don't think. This is a team effort.
but your concept.
I do a lot of the concept work, I do a lot of the preliminary design work, but there's a lot of work after preliminary design. There's layout design, there's detail design, there's manufacturing, and there's test. And then sometimes in test you find out that the concept was no good. But the way we're set up is to try lots of things, and then you learn through test what is good.
Very true. You've come this far.
And there are a lot of things have fallen by the wayside. We did several things that were blind alleys, but if you can try 10 things and 3 of them are successful, that's better than only being able to try one.
Absolutely. We've done something right if we're possibly in this lifetime, could, actually live on the moon.
Well, I've had a ride on a rocket, and everybody who works here had the option of riding on the rocket.